Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Lunchbox Live with your hosts, Chris Tibbetts and Dom Boyd. Good afternoon, Dom. How are you?
I'm well. We've had a good start to the day. So, energy's high after the last few days. Good to be here.
Excellent. And we're really pleased to welcome our special guest today, Mr. Alex Discipline Myers. Alex, we put in the titles you're from Warwickshire because I know you're based in Coventry, but I can't remember if you live in Warwick or Coventry. So can you clear up for me and Dom where you actually live?
I live in neither. I was born in Coventry. I have a gym in Warwick, and I live in Stratford.
There we go. See, Warwickshire was the best guess. Warwickshire was the best guess.
Warwickshire covers all bases. Yeah, Warwickshire covers all bases. So that works.
So we are live today from Warwickshire or Stratford, because that's where Alex is today. So we're in Stratford upon Avon, which is a wonderful place. So, Alex, introduce yourself, please, sir.
Cool. Well, I'm Alex, as you might have worked out, and I'm a coach. I'm got a background in personal training. I've been doing this for a long time now. I got called a goat the other day, which is and I get referred to as a veteran now. So yeah, I've been personal training guys, mainly guys for about 16 years. Obviously, lockdown changed the whole gym focus a little bit. So I predominantly now do online coaching for guys who want to improve their discipline and get into great shape and become men of their word.
What was it, lockdown, or is there something more with your own personal journey that's brought you into the online space?
It was lockdown that forced that up upon me. But like any great change in my life, dude, it's always been forced upon me. You know, I think I was heading that way. Lockdown just gave me a boot up the arse and said, Alex, you've got no fucking choice. You've got to do it now. Which I think most men work best when that happens. I think any great transformations usually start from a place of pain or urgency. And lockdown made people move, didn't it? It's changed the game for people.
Definitely did. Definitely. Pain, okay, buzzword there for me. There's clearly you've got a great story. You've got a good background. You've told us, we've seen you on stage, and now sort of propelling yourself, using that pain as leverage. Just give us some insight into your story, your background, and.
Yeah, sure, man. Well, yeah, I've told my story a lot, but I always struggle to articulate how painful it was and what really happened. Because at the time, I thought it was an event that triggered this breakdown that I had when I was about 28. When in reality, when I look back now with a clearer head, it was just my entire life. Like I was living my entire life in a way that wasn't serving me very well.
Yeah.
It all come to a head, and things got pretty bad before they got better. So just found myself in this really bad place. Like most guys experience it at some time in their life, where booze comes to the front of your game. You don't want to go out, you don't want to do nothing, you don't want to get out of bed, and suddenly you're in this rut, and that's where I found myself. So like I said, I was forced to then make some different changes to my life. But the most painful part wasn't the depression itself. It was the 5 years after, man. The guilt, the shame, feeling stuck, making amends, trying to make amends for the things that I've done in my 20s. And that crippled me more than ever. And it's only the last couple of years that I've really started to move out of that place. But pain's always been my best motivator. Pain still motivates me now. Like now it's the pain of not going back there that keeps me fueled. Before it was the pain that was moving me out of that place. So pain for me, I love pain in a weird kind of way. I choose to be in painful places, sometimes in the gym. I like that optional suffering, but pain's always been a good friend for me. So it's always moved me forward.
Yeah, defo. We're all, I think all three of us are on this, and we now use pain as, like I say, as a leverage point. We've all suffered, definitely. Me and Chris are talking all the time from guilt and from shame. Just what was some of the things that you felt guilt and shame around that maybe our viewers can associate with?
Yeah, well, I think that definitely there was a lot of guilt and shame about the way I treated people.
Okay.
It's definitely those ones closest to me, because I think what happens when you're in, I think, any business or industry, usually the people that you work with get the best of you, and then the people at home get the fucking worst of you. So you know, my parents, my girlfriend at the time, they were just seeing this not very nice Alex, and that kind of ate away at me for years and years. And still, I'm not going to lie, it's still there. Like, it's just much less of a presence. But I had to atone, kind of thing, and I still feel like, you know, I'm going through that a little bit. But yeah, that was the biggest thing. And then, of course, look, when you're depressed, like, you don't think straight, man. Like, you don't look after yourself, you don't take care of yourself. You do things that you probably wouldn't do if you had a little bit more sanity in your brain. So there was all of that stuff. And then there was financial stress as well, because my business started to collapse. And, well, it did collapse. So it was everything, man. It was that typical thing you hear guys always say. It was, you know, I couldn't see a way out. It was too much. And that's almost how it felt.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry. Do you think, though, that it was the stress of running your successful business that pushed you over, or did you just go, I've had enough, and it started adding to stress as you sort of went further into your breakdown?
No, it wasn't. I thought it was the business at the time. That's what I was saying. You know, the business is too much. But if you gave me that business now, with the mindset that I've got and the capacity I've got, I'd handle it. I'd do things differently. It was more the whole, when I was alone, when I was looking in the mirror, that's when I was most uncomfortable. You know, I knew what I'd done. You know, my clients loved me and thought I was fucking great, but kind of like in the privacy of my own home, I just didn't feel good. Didn't feel comfortable in my own skin. Didn't like what I'd done. Didn't like what I was doing. Didn't like how I felt. So it was actually nothing to do with the business. This was more of a inner kind of game that just something didn't sit right with me.
So if the Alex of today went back to the Alex of that day, you would handle things completely different.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we all do this, don't we? In hindsight, we look back and we were, you know, I still wouldn't say I have the answers, because, you know, when you're in a low place, no matter what advice you're given by anybody, you don't always take it on board. I just don't think logic comes into play much when you're really, you know, when you're in a really bad place, like really depressed. Like, you could have the best people around you telling you, and even you know what to do, but just something is missing at that point. So I'm always a bit cautious about offering advice to people that are in the lowest of places. Yeah.
Emotion takes over 100%. Was the tipping point, if you like, here was what at the time, obviously you see it different now. You've identified a lot since, but the tipping point, if you like, was the tipping point the business at the time? Was that the I've got to change, or I'm in a bad way here? No,
it was actually a relationship.
Okay.
It was the breakup of a relationship, and then there was something else that happened, which unfortunately I can't talk too much about. But that really, I mean, I can handle business setbacks, I can handle financial, but when you're in a relationship, you're talking about heartbreak, you're talking about real suffering. Yeah, and that's a different kind of thing. That, you know, I like to think of myself as a tough individual, but at that point, it's the last thing I felt. So and like I say, just the whole embarrassment about the way I behaved, I guess, in those relationships, and like I say, then came the regret, then came the beat up, then you get the shame, and so on. So I think that was more a telling point. Typical story of a guy, you know, kind of and this isn't get your violins out, because it was all my own doing, but it was around that.
I can totally associate, and I'm sure Chris can. You know, my tipping point was a relationship. It absolutely broke my heart, and when at the time, and when I talk about it now, and I seen it as all me. It was all my fault, and I had lots of guilt and shame. And as you say, you're tough. You know, you're a guy. We're all guys here, and we suck it up, and that's what we're meant to believe. But actually, I think you start to realise that actually, when you become at peace with your emotions, you start to go, okay, it's better to not suppress these feelings, and it takes us down a road that we don't really want to go down when we do suppress them. You talk about the guilt and the shame, and you say you still have a little bit going on, but I'm more interested in sort of what do you do now to cope with that guilt and shame, like to keep a handle on it, so that if anybody's out there watching this, who maybe they could use sort of tactics that you employ to just manage it.
Yeah, sure. Well, I went into this phase after of trying to put my life back together, which it seemed sense to start goal setting again, which I don't regret doing, but I was going after things that probably weren't going to make a difference to the way that I felt. They were just, achievements, something to go at. So, again, rebuilding a business, materialistic things, success, being driven. When the biggest difference now is I spend more time on what I call the inner work. So slowing down a little bit, doing the things that are actually going to make me feel like a decent human, being nicer to my mum and dad, being nicer to people around me, doing all the things that if I'm on my own, I can just feel a bit more comfortable and a bit more okay with myself. That's become my main priority now, because I've realized I can handle setback and adversity, and I can handle not having money, and I can handle the business crumbling. But like I say, I can't handle not being a decent person.
I think that's powerful. Just the sort of connectivity with the sort of closest around you is, I think a lot of people just distance themselves, even put walls up, and really it doesn't serve us.
Yeah, well, that's tough because I'm 36. My mum and dad are 67 now. So you kind of start to think that they're not going to be around forever, and then that really hurts, because you're like, fucking hell, when I did have the opportunity, I didn't make the most of it. So it's all tough stuff to look at. This is, and like I say, not many people want to speak about it, but I've never really been shy of just saying it how it is. So there's loads of guilt and shame around that. Like, you wish you'd have behaved differently in your 20s and early 30s. You wish, but you can't, and you can make amends, but it's still there. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it doesn't just fuck off and leave. It's hangs around, and I almost have to go to war with my own head every day and make sure that I'm in a half decent place so that I can, live my life and enjoy it.
Yeah. So we've got a little bit about the backstory. It was a bumpy road, big business. You did well, relationship breakup, tipping point. Somewhere along the line, you've realised you like goal setting, and you start going down that pathway, and now where we're at is we're at the future, and just recently I noticed a name change. Me and Chris noticed a slight name change. So things are evolving all the time, but we have labelled you the master of discipline. Both me and Chris have worked with you for that reason. So just tell us about the Discipline Project.
Yeah, sure. So, I do like a little name change occasionally, and I'm still trying to figure it out. So,
I think it's great, by the way. I think the Discipline Project is
cool, isn't it? It's the same things. I mean, DX and D28 happen inside the Discipline Project. But, well, what I learned from all this goal chasing was that, look, when I was motivated, I was great. When I wasn't, I was terrible. Yeah. So I soon realized that motivation wasn't the thing that I needed. I thought it was. I love feeling motivated. I still do. Yeah. But it wasn't getting me what I wanted. And I soon found out that the only thing that's ever really made a difference to my mental health, my productivity, my family life, all the good stuff, it is this concept of discipline, being able to show up and do the work on the days where you don't particularly feel like doing it. So I made that, my number one thing. I started with very simple things like, getting out of bed at the same time each day. I started at the beginning. I didn't have all the qualities that I had then, so I had to go back to the base beginning level. Which was hard, because I was in all these coaching programs, these elite coaching programs, and I thought I was the fucking man. But really, my results weren't showing that. Externally, I could blag it on social media pretty well. I could, I could make up some cool stuff and tell the world I was doing great. But again, inside it, I just weren't feeling it. So I went to work and used discipline as my best friend. And I see discipline now as it's hard, look, but it's not as hard as being miserable and suffering like I did when I was in my late 20s and early 30s. That's for sure.
Yeah. Cool. So as the master of discipline, the chief, the CEO, the COO, the chairman of the board of the Discipline Project, you're living in and breathing it, and you're seeing people all the time. What are the things, or what are people doing that's stopping them from growing? What gets on your goat the most? Talking of goats.
I mean, there's a lot of things, like, you could pick people's routines apart and habits apart, and try and be as kind as I can. But I think we've
had some really tough conversations. I don't recall them being.
Alex, sorry. For everyone listening, he is a blatant liar.
I consider toughness as kindness. I really do. Like, it's weird. I was doing some writing today, and I was writing about when I was at my worst. I saw this counsellor lady. She was lovely. Like, she had such a good heart, such a good soul, but she was so soft on me. She didn't actually help me.
Yeah.
I needed to be told what I needed to hear at that point, not what I wanted. So I like to I love all my clients, but I don't take any shit off them. That's for sure, because I see that as my way of helping them. So yeah, what gets on my goat, what annoys me? Yeah, I think people's faulty expectations, although I understand them, I can see that that's often the reason why people quit quite easily. If I eat this and I train like this, I should lose this amount. I'm like, well, slow down. That is just an expectation. Because if people don't hit it, they think it's not working and they quit. But base level things that get on my goat is, people hitting snooze. People hitting snooze button.
Well, okay, so that's you've got faulty expectations, people quitting easy.
Yeah.
What's the, take us nicely into the 3 baddest habits. We talked about this, so I know you've just touched on the first one. What's the three baddest habits?
So I've got some little notes here. Snooze habit is definitely number 1 for me. I think it's the first thing that you can address. It's your first test of discipline, and it's the first victory that you can gain. I think getting out of bed. I'm not saying super early, like you decide what time. I don't care, but just do what you said you'd do. Second thing is having wrong data points. Yeah. So again, all of my success and my worth is dependent on this number that I hit, i.e. the weighing scales. So I think people have the wrong measurements and the wrong way of judging whether they're being successful or not. So I would judge it more by, are you doing what you said you would do versus, have you lost X amount? And then the third one is just, making poor decisions, like daily poor decisions. If you take somebody who's out of shape, for example, versus somebody who's in shape, there's nothing that different between the people. It's just the decisions that they make. It's as easy as that. So that's something that does get on my nelly a little bit. Yeah, people are continuously making the wrong decisions and then wondering why they've ended up where they're at.
You're so right. I was having a conversation. I don't know where I heard this or where I read it, but I was having a conversation just recently with somebody, and I said, and it was something I'd read. I'd picked up the difference between amateurs and professionals was basically the decisions made, and professionals just having that discipline to go through the boredom. There's not, an amateur and a professional has exactly the same goals. Nobody's any different. We've all got the same goals. But they are willing and disciplined to go through that boredom. They are, and I love what you've just said. I've just called it the snooze test. I absolutely love it. It's got to, and I think it ties in nicely with what all of us do. Like, if you can't pass the snooze test, then that's your first place to start reviewing. Set the clock, get up straight away. First level of discipline. If you get it wrong today, that's cool. Just review, just reflect, and reset tomorrow, keep going, and then turn up every day. I love that. The snooze test. It's got to be coined, that one, hasn't it? It's got to be coined.
Yeah. And people always talk about boredom and going through the motions. And I always say, look, you're going through some kind of motion, whether you like it or not. Some motion will take you forward, some motion will take you backwards. Like, some of our worst habits, can become boring. Yeah. So why not turn that boredom into the things that actually serve you? Like, we have to go through the motions as human beings. It's inevitable.
Yeah, it definitely is. The struggle is real, and once you get past it, you get the results. Pain, pleasure. Yeah. We've had the bad. Let's go for the good.
So again, I kind of flip these round, and one of the good ones that I'm going to say straight away is a consistent get up time. Yeah, and again, I'm not that fussed about what the time is for anybody, because you can play around with that. But for me, it's just it's what it signifies, what it stands for. You getting up and starting the day. Because if you're anything like me, first thing in the morning is, if I don't take control, like, I'll let the day run away, and then before I know it, I'm playing catch up, and that's not good for a man like me. So that's the first thing I'd do. Second thing is getting clear on what you want your day to look like. So setting just some 3 basic priorities, which is what I do for the guys inside of DX, so that you're saying, look, this is my purpose today. These are my ambitions and my goals, and then you can create some motivation because you've got something to do, right? I think a lot of guys just wake up and don't really know what they should be doing, and then that makes it hard to even get out of bed. And then the third one I'd say is some accountability. That is a good habit that anybody should be looking to get into, because that's the difference between knowing and doing. And it's so easy, isn't it, to fail and not do the work when nobody's watching. But when people are watching and they're nudging you and they're saying, Chris, Dom, come on, what the fuck are you up to, kind of thing, then like you're more likely to do it. And after a while, guys actually want the accountability. They see it as a pleasure. They see it as support, not nagging after a while. You just need to get through that initial period. So I love being accountable now. I see it as a support network. Like, you guys are on my side. It's really powerful. Yeah. So they're the three things that I'd suggest any guy starts doing like now.
That's a great ending of that. You need to do it now. 100%. Okay. That's pretty much it. We're a little over on the time there, but let's have one last one. We've labelled you, so we've labelled you the master of discipline.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure. I do my best. But...
No, Mr. Discipline. But you Master of Discipline. I just had Mr. Discipline, but you've now made him Master of Discipline. But he did call himself a goat. So when you call yourself a goat, then
no, I didn't call myself a goat. But I like Master of Discipline is a new level. Like
Master of Discipline, Mr. Discipline, Mr. Dear. Why are you? Final question. Why are you, or what makes you an expert in discipline?
Persistence. I will not give up.
There you go, and that is discipline right there.
Yeah, it's the only way you build it. Yeah, persistence. Keep doing the work.
Well, Alex, it's been fantastic chatting to you. I got one final question for you. Okay, before we wrap this up, what's next for Alex Myers?
Funny you asked this. I was having this question this morning. I want to write a book. Yeah, I'm falling in love with writing. I've ordered 3 new books that are arriving today. I'm just
what to read or to write?
To read. This TV behind me, it gets used less and less. And even when I've got the TV on, I'm watching things that are creative. Good films with good storylines. I'm just learning. Again, talking about discipline. I'm not naturally a very good writer, so now I'm using my discipline to become a good writer. Yeah. So that's probably what's next, as well as just helping as many guys as I can. Yeah.
Awesome.
So final question, are you doing another No Holds Barred when you can in 2021?
I'll be doing another event for sure. Yeah. I think getting on stage is powerful, isn't it? And giving some guys the mic and letting them express how they feel is pretty important. So I'll always be doing something that raises awareness of this. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Well, look, Alex, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for your information, your comments, your expertise, and it's been an absolute pleasure. If you need some inspiration on your morning walk, please check us out on podcast. This will be available as a podcast. And if you're listening on the podcast, I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much, Dom. Thank you very much, Alex. And we will see you all again tomorrow morning for our morning boost. And on Thursday, who's the guest on Thursday, Dom? I believe it might be from somebody in Yorkshire, is it?
Barnsley Barbell.
It is. We're off to Yorkshire on Thursday.
One of my favourite people, Pete Shaw.
Pete Shredded Wheat Shaw.
He's one of my guys. He's legit. He's a great guy. Great shape. He's just a great dude as well. I like Pete a lot.
So we are in Barnsley on Thursday at 12 o'clock with Pete Shredded Wheat Shaw, and you'll find out all about that story on Thursday. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you later.